Hi, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to do Rant Wednesday, and it is like kind of a series. I'm going to start talking about different topics. So if you're into those like chatty videos where people sit down and they kind of just discuss a topic, which has kind of become my favorite thing to watch on YouTube, then just stick around and be my soundboard. So today's topic I wanted to discuss, which I think is a very interesting topic and kind of controversial today, just based on like where society stands, is friendships. So one thing I want to point out is I am by definition like a floater friend. So I have friends for like different reasons and different personalities. So like for example, you have your friend who's your active friend that you go do things with, who's active. You have your chill friend who you go do chill things with. If you get what I mean, that sort of thing. You have your shopping friend who you rely on for like advice and their perspective and their insight. You have your friend who's like your coffee shop kind of like hopping friend where you go to different cafes and you try them out. So that's the kind of friend that I am. I don't fit into a bubble, and I don't really fit into a certain group of people. I just kind of go with the flow. But I am the type of person that's more one-on-one. Like, I definitely prefer more of that style of interaction. If it's a group setting, I'm a little more shy and reserved, but as I get comfortable with personalities, I start to, you know, be more open and be more receptive and show a little bit more of my playful side. So I feel like as you get older, I have notes. Don't mind it, but it's just to help me stay on track. So as you get older, I kind of feel like you become more intolerant of certain tendencies and patterns in people. I feel like it's just a natural thing. Like not, it's not like in a miserable or mean way, but as you get older, you just have a lower tolerance, if that makes sense. Like you don't handle certain things well anymore, and you kind of start to notice who you get along with. I'm just drinking lemon water, by the way. You just start to cucumber too, which is good for the gut. But anyways, you start to notice like certain things really get on your nerves, and because you know yourself so well, by the time you reach your 20s and onwards, you start to really see people for who they are, and you really start to understand like, okay, this is certain things that I will accept, this is certain things that people won't change, and certain things that I have to let go. So I feel like definitely have to be somebody when it comes to like, especially because I'm a fire sign. So if you understand your zodiac, which I don't read too deeply into, but when it comes to like qualities I notice in people and myself, they are very accurate and true. But you have to be someone who has a sense of security. Like I can't dim my light for you. I can't act a certain way for you and feel like I have to change my energy because of you, or around you. I don't really get along well with people like that, because you have to have a confidence and self-esteem to yourself. And everybody, sometimes we fall and we rise, and it's up and down like this with our moods and our consistency as a friend, because we go through so many hardships and turmoil and grief and things like that, and life experiences just change like our it just it depends what elevation you're on. So if you're on a higher frequency, you have a higher standard, just higher standards of people, which is what I am. So I just know for a fact that like I really have to be mindful about who I let in my life, and I'm very careful with certain things, because it's because of my upbringing and things that I've been through, that I'm a little bit more guarded, and that's just how it is, right? So if you can relate to that, then you would understand what I mean. But for the most part, I just feel like in a social setting, it's really hard not to be self-critical of everything you do or say, because you don't want to be judged, and because you just don't want people to think you're trying too hard, or you're trying to out shine them or anything like that. I just want to get along and vibe with people. Like that's just my only objective when I'm in a social setting. Like I just want to feel chosen when I go out with people. I want to feel seen. I want to feel appreciated and admired. I feel like we're all like that. We just want to feel a sense of connection with people, but I think we're losing that a lot because of social media. And it's a little bit of a performative, and people take on a persona, I feel, in a sense, and it's a little shady, and it's a little like why I'm so guarded, because I'm just not, I don't do well with people who are distant. Like if you're one of those flaker friends, like I've had people in the past who committed to doing plans with me and then they totally bailed last minute. And if it's for a valid reason, I understand. But if But if you make a pattern of doing it, then I'm starting to see, okay, maybe this is not for the best for the both of us. And it's nothing personal, but I just, again, I have a certain things that I am willing to tolerate and not. So I tend to overthink a lot, and it doesn't help when people start to leave you out of things and, post, and suddenly you're not invited now, and you kind of question yourself. And once people start to make me feel like that, I kind of just gracefully bow out of the interactions, because I can't, like, I just have to block and delete or kind of just distance myself. And I really think, like, I really am cautious of people's behavior and their attitude and their tone of voice around me. I've really had people who've kind of like push the boundaries on how much they think that I'm patient enough to handle with them. And once I start to see something that I don't like, I have to let it go. And it's just a matter of, either you're restricted from my life and I don't really share a lot of details with you because we're surface level friends, or even just acquaintances at this point. Um, because sometimes you just don't know where you stand with people, and I feel like that is the most confusing thing, when people make you feel in like a perpetual state of misunderstanding. Like, that's just not fun. And I think, like, it's really hard today. Like, I go around in public with strangers and I'll compliment people, because I feel like that is just such a dying art. Like, I feel like people don't do it anymore. Like, I love to compliment females on their outfits when I'm out and about in public, or compliment men and maybe their perfume that they're wearing, right? Or their style. I just think it's such a way of getting people's spirit up, because I feel like we're in a really dark time, and just with everything going on in the world, you really have to stop and analyze, like, okay, how am I contributing to society and people and myself in a positive way, right? But I definitely feel like I have a little bit of social anxiety, and I've noticed that because when I get ready to go somewhere, I have to think of all the parameters and just all the dynamic that I'm going to be in. Like, how many people are going to be there? What should I wear? How should I do my makeup? And I think that's also just a girl thing. Like, we just naturally, as females and women, have such a persona and presence about us that we want to uphold. But I definitely think of, like, okay, is there going to be something involved that I don't participate in? Should I really be mindful of how I carry myself? Things like that. Like, I want to have manners, and when I go into somebody's home, I want to be respectful, like, things like that, and how I spend my time around them. So I really feel like another thing I can't handle is, like, if somebody has mental illness, for example, you know, you should be taking your meds. And I feel like that is a very dangerous and troublesome game to play, because it's hard to be close with someone like that, especially if they're like a family member, because I've dealt with that in the past with somebody I didn't know personally, but someone who was seeing somebody in my family, and I noticed right away that it was a bad idea. But at the end of the day, of mental illness, as long as you're taking your meds and you're trying to integrate yourself on a good path, then I can feel like I can allow that. But if you don't and you're self-destructive, then that's just an absolute no-no for me, because I feel like you're not doing the work that you need to do on yourself. But I don't like when people start switching up on me, like they treat me like an enemy all of a sudden, because I've had that experience, and it's not really polite when people start calling me names out of nowhere, and then they try to mask it as a joke. But I don't think it's funny if it gets to a point where you keep doing it over and over again. Sometimes I just think silence is a way to go about it, sometimes with others, because if you're not getting what you want and I'm giving too much, that's when I feel like, okay, I really need to take a step back and figure out, what is this serving me, right? Like, am I playing a purpose in your presence? Are you giving me what I deserve? Because I feel like a lot of times we just you time and time and again, you want to see the good in people. You want to see you want to see a side of them that you believe that sometimes they only show when they're with you alone, right? Are they a different person when they're around other people that certain things like that. I feel like if it's a superficial partnership where you feel like you have to spend money on them to get them to hang out with you or beg for them and their attention, and it's just, I don't know where to read. Sometimes it's hard if you cannot see what a person is really like, and that can be a really it's just frustrating, and sometimes it's really annoying. but it depends on their maturity level, to be honest. Because I can be friends with people in their 20s. I notice I can be people with friends who are millennials like me. I can be friends with boomers. I don't think friendship really matters as long as at what age, but as long as you guys have a mutual understanding and boundaries with each other, and it's just a space that you give each other, right? But again, it has to be appropriate age difference and all that, right? Because sometimes we want to make sure that we're respecting that. So it's very important. Um, Also, I feel like sometimes I don't share things with people because in the past, like I've had people who've used it against me. You know, I've had, especially it's more with girlfriends. I realized that I once had a friend in middle school who was constantly in competition with me, and I did not start it. I just felt out of nowhere that she was always using things that she knew about my life to embarrass me or dehumanize me or humiliate me, and that's the type of friend you have to be careful with because you kind of teeter on um like that was my first like real experience of being friends with a girl, like a close bestie. And when you feel like you're now meeting their family and you're getting closer with them, but you really feel like sometimes behind the scenes they're just it's a totally different, I don't know how to explain it, but like if they're not a person who feels good within their skin, like they have to feel comfortable in their skin, they're gonna take it out on you and they're gonna lash out on you. And that was really hard and difficult for me because the other girls in my group did not stand up for me, and that went on for it went on for a long period actually because I just did not want to be alone. And when you get older, you kind of look back and realize I put up with too much. I really did. And now I'm in a place where it's like, okay, I won't deal with betrayal and I won't deal with deceit. And I see it for what it is right away. Like I will catch it early on now because I just can't deal with someone if they had a bad upbringing, for example, or childhood. That's not an excuse. I'm sorry. You need to do the internal work within yourself to be someone who's worthwhile and wholesome, if that makes sense. But I just feel like there's this competition with females, and I don't care for it. I just think we all have to we all have to bring each other up. Like there's no need to turn against each other, and there's no need to be like, "Oh, well, you have this and I have this over you." And it's like, I don't care about the showmanship. I don't care about what material things you have acquired. I just want to be hang out with people who want to go on adventures and want to just have fun, and can we just vibe without with substance, and not with not with constantly bringing up our hardships, and just being in a such a state where it's a constant battle to figure out where you are mentally. um because you don't want to be the type of friend where now you feel like a therapist, because I've seen that a lot with people, and I won't do that. Sorry. Like I will be here for you and your problems and issues, but it gets to a point where, okay, well, if I'm a soundboard now and I'm constantly just hearing from you and picking up the phone because you want to talk about something, well, if it's never asking me questions about me and it's always about you, we've reached a point where I can't. Yeah. So I just really feel like sometimes people play a game with you, and it's for the plot. Like they get this high out of it, like for their it feeds their ego, But do they actually care, Or like sometimes I feel like it's just trivial facts that I will give people about me, because I'm just very I tread on the line with people about knowing, should I be intimate with them with what I go through, like my struggles and my thoughts and my opinions, right? Because we're just such a soft society now. Like people take things the wrong way really fast, and you don't know the way they're going to interpret what you say. So I feel like there's those friendships where people troll you and they roast you, but I think sometimes it's masked to benefit their confidence, which is, I just find it so weird. Like it's just really weird, and I don't like that. And when people start to make you self-doubt, and if you're already critical, it doesn't help. And so comprehending like where you are with someone and having good healthy community, like having healthy communication is so valid. And you shouldn't have to beg for that for someone, and you shouldn't have to feel like, you're walking on eggshells around someone. I just don't feel like that's where it needs to be. And also I just feel like you have to, protect your energy and you have to really have people that regulate your nervous system. I've heard that a lot. And it's just like where, for example, the person makes you feel like, does this individual make me feel safe? Do they make me feel comfortable? Are they genuine? Like, those are the questions I always ask myself when I meet someone, and that will determine for me whether or not long term they will be around. So I just need to know, like, you know if we can be playful with each other, that's even better. I like people that don't take life too seriously, because it's already serious enough as it is, that I just sometimes want to just let loose and be light with somebody. And sometimes if we do like things that remind me of my childhood, like, that's really a nice activity that I feel like two people can enjoy. But I don't want to feel like it's a constant back and forth where we're too different in like different places, because sometimes you reconnect with somebody and you reunite, but it doesn't feel the same for whatever reason. And it's just too much time has passed, because I've tried to do that with people that I knew in school a long time ago when I was younger. And, I just want that sisterhood, because I always feel like I want the gossip girl life. That's very fantasy, but it's a great thing to imagine, where you have a gossip girl life. You have your Pretty Little Liars, group of girls, and you have your Vampire Diaries like love story, right? Like, that would be a perfect, union. But anyways, I just feel like there's a lot of challenges, and you have to like let certain things go, and it's painful, but you need, and sometimes you don't get closure, and I feel like that's just the hardest, that's the most painful thing, is like when you don't get closure with people, and you just feel awkward. And as the weeks, days, months go by, seasons, you wonder like, okay, well, where do we stand, right? You don't want to question it over and over again. And sometimes you don't get a reasoning behind why people do what they do. It's just they go through life and they don't have the emotional intelligence to give you what you're looking for. And it's either going to be a lesson or a blessing. And also it's just depends on a lot of things, where I feel like if I have to constantly initiate or check in with you and reach out, well, that's just not a like, it's not something that I can do. Like, I need somebody who's gonna meet me 50-50, me male or female. Like, you have to also take the opportunity to pick up the phone randomly. I like people that pick up the phone still today unexpectedly, because when I call people, I feel sometimes regretful, because they act like, oh, well, why are you calling me? Like, some people are just so not used to that anymore. And I feel like we don't really talk anymore. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's just something that needs to be worked on, and it's what keeps a stable, it's what keeps things consistent and stable. So I need to have a fulfillment, and I also don't want to chase companionship anymore. I feel like, we have to have a shared activity, and I have to feel with you when I leave, where like there's an elevation. Like, I feel like, I don't want to be in a situation where people bully me, because I've had that in the past, and I've had to stand up for myself, and I feel like we've all gone through something similar in that retrospect. And just being introspective, and I just feel like, you know not, if you've ever felt not enough, then you can see what it's like, where it's not fun, where you've been neglected, maybe for example by a parent, or you have to feel like you've had to be mentally strong, because that's something that I've personally gone through. And for that reason, it's just, I don't, you know I don't do well if you lack sympathy. You have to be a compassionate person who has empathy. I can't do it well if you're self-absorbed and you're selfish, or you know sometimes people have a really hard, like, they're not vulnerable. And I just want to feel like we don't have to share secrets or confessions. I really just want I just want something that's real. That's all I want. And I need to be in a good place with people, or I just leave them, because I can't do it. Like, you have to have, like, you have to put on your phone, for example. You can't just be on your phone 24/7 when we're together, because that's just so superficial to me, and that just tells me a lot about you, that your habits, routines, and the screen time now is now 9 hours with Gen Z, right? So that tells you that we're heading to a really crucial issue where that's why there's so many dating problems, and that's why there's falling outs easily in friend groups, and where people are just more catering to their followers, I feel, and like their online presence than their in person, with other people. So I feel like I just have to have like a carefree mindset with you. We can have arguments and debates, but it better be over frivolous things, like where you still see like exactly where I'm coming through my thought process. And I feel like, some people, it depends on like their sleep habits, they're are they financially secure within themselves, do they eat healthy, like all those things affect where they are in their mind, in their brain. And if it's not a balance, then you start to see when they're jeopardizing or sabotaging everything around them, and I can't be a contributor to that. So I want to form meaningful relationships with people, and I don't want to feel like I have to constantly deal with animosity. And even there's people who I've noticed who get in romantic relationships, and then all of a sudden they ostracize themselves from everybody else. And that can be really tough because, when you're dealing with personal and family life, you can't just be so tied to your partner where now you've closed up everybody. And, now all of a sudden it's like you're becoming a stranger to me. And I feel like that's the really tough spot to be in, because you want the best for somebody, but you'll also realize, okay, well, I don't see you anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't text anymore. We don't send each other funny memes. We don't do words of affirmation, like things like that. Little things that help check in and see where somebody is, and how, and you're still in a in a connection with somebody. I keep trying not to use the same words, sorry. But I just want to say, like, I hope people feel grounded and optimistic about things, because there is quality people out there. You just have to look. And, I think it's just a delicate topic because, there's some people out there who are very controlling and superficial, and they just quote things, and you have to read the room, and you have to see people's patterns and tendencies really early on to like see, like, is this becoming is it becoming an ongoing thing, so I have to stay complacent, which I can't do, and I have to value you. And that's just you coming down to being like me. Like, you need to be down to earth, ground. I shouldn't have to feel guarded and on edge, or I need to feel like you're present, and there's a peacefulness going on. But once I feel like there's too much stress and pressure, and I feel like that's due to the economy, that people lash out sometimes on you unknowingly, well, we have to be active in all areas of life, and sometimes it just gets too much for people. And I sympathize, but I can't rationalize if it becomes a point where you're just not being what I need you to be. And that's fine, but you need to do some work. And I just wish people would share that with me if they just need um that time for themselves, right? For like however long it may be. But I just feel like we don't speak anymore, and that's just where it gets really, really strange. But I have good intuition with people, and I kind of read the room very early on and what their intentions are. So yeah, but I don't do surface level, like sometimes that's okay, but to a certain extent. But you need to have quality time with people. You need to have accountability. They need to have mutual interests. There has to be no deception. Like if they're going through crisis, do they only call you when they're going through something, right? Like that's just not a real. Mm-mm. But there has to be potential, and I need to feel assured. um like, I just want there to be constructive, direct perception with people. Like, I want it to be earnest, and I don't want to feel like there's a reckoning. And I just want to know that if I disparage information with you, that it's going to be sacred. You're not going to share it with XYZ around you. Sometimes I send people memes and they don't respond. And I'm like, okay, well, this has gone on for far too long. I'm never going to do it again. Like, you know what I mean? So I just feel like at the end of the day, like like your true colors with people start to take a toll, and you know, yeah, I just feel like you reach a place where you have to come to an agreement with them. And sometimes your best friends are the ones that have been in the same location or neighborhood as you for a long time, but there's a lot of outside factors get in the way of things. And you know people have to align with your spirit. They really have to, appreciate your existence. They have to, we have to be bonding, not begging for, us to meet up. Like, I don't want to overcompensate and have to teach you how to be in a relationship. And, you have to be a good hearted person. There has to be an emotional impact with you, that I feel like we're cordial and there's no negative, miserable, um, constant state of pressure between us. I just, because loneliness is a thing, and I feel like you meet people at work and events, and you meet people at different stages of your life and mutual friends or public space. And I think it's cool to meet people from all walks of life. And but I don't want to feel anxious. I don't want to feel hesitant. I don't want to feel, I'm already cautious as it is going out. And I just, I don't want to be played, and I don't want seasonal, here and there with you. And yeah, that's just something I'm not going to do. And yeah, I think I think that's all I wanted to say personally, because the video is getting really long. But if you want to share your thoughts, please do, because I feel like this is such a topic where you could talk hours about it, but there's almost so much time in the day. But yeah, I just feel like, if you any other things that you want to leave down below, please comment, like, subscribe, and I will be back for more. So anyways, thank you. Bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.